Hey everybody, Nick here, and today I got a review for you of this little guy. This is the Spyderco Dragonfly in G10 and VG10 steel. First off, though, I want to thank my buddy Snig for sending this guy along. I wouldn't have gotten a chance otherwise, so thank you very much, Snig. I appreciate that. Next thing, let's do a size comparison. First off, against the Spyderco Dragonfly. This is the FRN model, the base model Dragonfly, the one that they sell most of, that's available on the fancy steels. Look, this is the default, and then this is a fancy second version. But size-wise, they are pretty much the same. Thickness-wise, actually, they're about the same there as well. These are very, very similar little knives here. Then, of course, against your Spyderco Delica, which is here in FRN as well, and against your steel wheel cut jack, 3-inch, and your Ontario Rat number 1 in D2 steel. Then finally, a late breaking edition for size comparison is this little guy. This is the Spyderco Native, Little Native, that is. This is a very interesting little piece that was just released by Spyderco. This literally just showed up today, and so interesting little piece. So anyways, let's go ahead and talk about this guy. But the thing is, I've already reviewed the Dragonfly. My feelings for the Dragonfly are well known. This is one of the very best pocket knives available. At least certainly this version here is. And, you know, it's my travel knife of choice. This is just a great piece, 100%. But rather than giving a full re-review, there's no sense in doing that. I'm just going to talk about the differences from the FRN model. What makes this model different from that? And how is that good and how is that bad, etc. One other thing I want to note is that blade swaps don't work reliably. Many people have thought, oh, I'll get a G10 one and then I'll swap in a ZDP blade. In this case, actually, I tried to do that exact same thing, and it just didn't work. The backlock didn't align. Maybe there's just some weirdness here. They're different generations or something like that. But I'm just not super impressed with that, that lack of ability. I mean, why should it work? But still, and I've heard of some people succeeding and some people failing, so it really is going to depend on your particular situation. But anyways, there you go. That is, well, that's the intro. Let's talk about what's good and what's bad about moving to the G10 from the FRN version. On the good side, the biggest thing is that this just feels more solid. This knife here is steel throughout. There's steel liner, there's steel back lock bar, there's steel lock bar, of course, steel blade, steel. The only things that aren't steel are the G10, and G10 is plenty stiff too. And so as a result, this just feels more solid. I mean, you can grab on this thing and twist and whatnot. It just feels very, very solid. Not that the FRN doesn't particularly, but in this case, for the Dragonfly, there aren't steel liners underneath there. So it does feel... I mean, is it a problem? No. But this does feel more solid because it's a big chunk of freaking steel. So there you go. Next thing, because this is a chunk of freaking steel, the disassembly is a little bit easier because the backlock spring is seated inside a little chunk of steel rather than a little chunk of plastic. And so that is obviously a nice thing. Appreciate that. The other thing that I was able to come up with that is, you know, an improvement about this is that this scale, anytime you've got G10, it is usually dyeable. What I mean by that is that you can go to a grocery store, at least here in the U.S., and buy a packet of what's called RIT dye. That's the brand, but fabric dye. And that will actually, generally speaking, stain the G10. You want to make sure you've cleaned it off well. There are all kinds of tutorials and whatnot online. But that means that if you want, for instance, a bright red Dragonfly, they may sell a bright red Dragonfly, I don't know. But you can usually do something like that. Well, usually not bright red, but you can change the color of this guy, whereas it's a little harder to with the FRN, particularly because I don't think they make any light-colored FRN scaled Dragonflies. And so those are the good things for me, at least. It feels a little bit more solid because of the full metal construction. Disassembly is a little bit easier, and it is dyeable. Which is nice, I guess. On the bad side, unfortunately, that's where a lot of it comes in here, because to start with, it is heavier. It's not like, oh my god, heavy here. I mean, it's a freaking Spyderco Dragonfly. It's not that heavy. But 1.97 ounces here versus 1.2 ounces. It's not a huge difference, but it is absolutely a difference. And if you were an ultralight backpacker, that might be a difference that counts. Next thing, because this is just one model, this is the G10 model, it only comes with the one steel. It comes with VG10, and VG10 is a steel that is okay. It's fine, it works well. It was the super steel of its day. Now it's no longer its day. But unfortunately, what that means is that you can't get all of the fun sprint runs. I mean, in addition to the ZDP version, which is always on sale, Spyderco is doing ongoing series and things like HAP 40 steel or V-Toku has just been announced here. You get a bunch of different options in the FRN version. You will not get those options in the G10. So there you go. Next thing, the balance on this guy is a little bit further back, as you might expect by moving a lot of the handle to be metal. Wow, they're throwing knives over here. But the balance here is closer to this vicinity, whereas on the original, it is kind of right in that choil area. So it's not a big difference, but it is a little bit of a difference there. Something to keep in mind. This guy will take stains, and actually you can see that. There's a little bit of staining on the scale here. That's just the nature of G10. Anytime that you have G10 and you put it in your pocket, particularly with new fabric dyes, like if you get brand new jeans, some of that will go into the G10, particularly when it's textured like this. It'll usually come back out again. Pardon me, but yeah, that's the thing. Then finally on the bad side, this is more expensive. This is $95 versus $55 for the base model and $80 for the ZDP model. And that's a fair amount more money. I mean, $40 is non-trivial. And so in addition to those other downsides, you end up paying a little bit more for it. And you pay even more than the ZDP version for the VG10 steel. That's not something I'm super in love with. And actually, that lets us go to the final conclusion here, which is that although, you know, it's nice and I appreciate that we've got the option, I just don't see the need to go to the G10 version for me. The FRN version is lighter, it's nicer balance, and you get a lot more variety in steel, and you get ZDP, which is just a really, really great option. And the thing is, even, you know, even there, it's half the price. The VG10 version is half the price of the G10. Which is, the FRN version is half the price of the G10 version. Both have VG10. But, I mean, and to me, that's the big distinction here. Why would I pay a little bit more for, in this case, lesser steel, or in this case, just for a heavier construction? I don't really feel the need. And if you want to spend the $80, just do the ZDP. And at this point, you have one of the very best knives on the planet. This is something I would wholeheartedly recommend to everybody. But as it is, honestly, the G10 version here is a different version. That's really about what you can say about it. It may be more appealing to some, particularly if you are a snob for having full metal construction, then by God, this one may rub you more the right way. But at least for me, given both the limitations and the price, honestly, I don't find this all that fly. Anyways, hope this has been interesting to you. Oh, and one other thing to consider, actually, before I jump too far away. The Little Native is now a thing. It's now released. It's got the compression lock and everything like that. And the thing is, compared to the G10 Dragonfly here, there are very, very many similarities in that they're both using G10, obviously. This guy's bigger in pretty much every dimension. The steel is a little bit better, but the price is very similar. This guy's $95. This is $105. So for $10 more, you can jump up to this. You get a similarly sized blade, but you get a compression lock, you get a way nicer steel, you get some other improvements there. And so that's another thing you might consider too. If you're thinking, oh, well, I like the size of the Dragonfly, but I don't like the FRN, then the Little Native might actually be worth thinking about as well. But anyways, there you go. I hope this has been interesting to you. See, now I can end the review, and that you have yourselves just an absolutely wonderful rest of your day. Bye now.